Good morning, everyone. This is Debbie Royce, Empire State Development's Corporate Secretary. I'd like to welcome everyone to this morning's meeting, and before we formally begin, I would ask you to please mute your lines unless you're speaking. As we have our directors joining by video today, we'll do a quick roll call for the benefit of those joining us by phone. Hope Knight.
Here.
Hilda Rosario Escher.
Here.
Sherry Gleed.
Here.
Cesar Perales.
Here.
Michael Rosen.
Here.
And Benson Martin, designee for Superintendent of New York State Department of Financial Services, Adrian Harris.
Here.
Thanks, everybody, so much for joining today. And Acting Chair Knight, you're ready to begin.
Thank you. Good morning. Before I call this meeting to order, I will note for the record that I will serve as the acting chair for today's meeting. I now call to order the meeting of the directors of New York State Urban Development Corporation, doing business as Empire State Development for Thursday, March 24th, 2022. I'd like to ask everyone to please mute your audio until you are ready to speak. Also, I will ask that anyone wishing to speak, please be sure to state your name before you begin so you can be identified for the folks joining us today by teleconference. I'd like to note for the record that in accordance with current legislation, this meeting will be conducted by video and teleconference. I will also note for the record that the public was given the opportunity to comment on the agenda items by submitting their written comments by noon yesterday. I'd like to state for the record that no comments were received from the public concerning today's agenda items. As always, the directors have received the written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time during the presentation. At this time, I will ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to any of the items on the agenda. If so, I will ask you to please make the appropriate disclosure on the record, and we will then remind you to recuse yourself from any discussion or vote with regard to such item or items. Hearing none, the first item on today's agenda is approval of the minutes of February 17th, 2022 Directors Meeting. I'd like to remind everyone to please state your name before speaking. Are there any questions, comments, additions, or deletions? If not, I will entertain a motion for approval.
Benson. So moved.
Second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. I will now ask Kathleen Mize to begin to present an item relating to the corporation's annual operating budget. Please begin, Kathleen.
Thank you, Hope, and good morning, directors. In compliance with Public Authorities Law, request is being made to the directors to approve ESD's fiscal year 2022-23 annual operating budget. The approximately $108.1 million budget reflects a broader overall programmatic increase in the proposed fiscal year 2022-23 executive budget over the previous fiscal year, as well as the additional programs and projects the governor will task ESD with implementing. It is recognized that the new initiatives that will be led by ESD will require additional support, and the budget, which includes significant federal funding, will allow it to more effectively administer and provide oversight of both new and existing economic development programs. New initiatives include the creation of ESD's Office of Workforce Development and Connect All, as well as enhancements to existing programs such as the Regional Economic Development Councils, the Minority and Women-Owned Business Division, and Small Business and Technology Development. The budget does not include New York State programmatic appropriations that have been included or in the governor's proposed fiscal year 22-23 executive budget. The budget includes approximately $68.3 million of total personal services expenses, including salary and fringe benefits, which will allow ESD to successfully develop, launch, and manage new and expanded programmatic portfolios with the staff required to do so, particularly within workforce development, the Minority and Women-Owned Business Division, and Small Business and Technology Development, and areas that directly support those initiatives, such as legal, loans and grants, and IT. The budget also includes approximately $39.8 million for non-personal services expenses, in addition to supporting occupancy costs, consultants, IT enhancements and communication, insurance, office services, and staff training programs. The additional funding will enhance ESD's efforts to provide greater transparency in the form of program evaluations requested by the legislature and other improvements to strengthen ESD's minority and women-owned business efforts. Also included is subsidiary operating support of $5.5 million, which includes the operating expenses of Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation, $1.3 million, Harlem Community Development Corporation, $3.4 million, Queens West Development Corporation, $0.1 million, and USA Niagara Development Corporation, $0.7 million. These and other subsidiary operating and capital budgets will be presented separately to the respective board members. Director approval is also requested for the corporation's fiscal year 2022-23 non-programmatic capital expense authorization totaling approximately $6.8 million. This authorization includes support for the entity-wide Microsoft Dynamics Customer Relations Management System, investment in technology to improve data and assets protection, expansion and replacement of IT hardware and software to enhance business continuity and disaster recovery capabilities. Further, this funding will be used to fortify ESD's remote and virtual work options for its increased staff statewide, as well as fortify this ESD's cybersecurity. If any changes are required to the ESD budget after the adoption of the state's fiscal year 2022-23 budget or any other time during the fiscal year, they will be brought to the board for approval. The details of the proposed operating budget, including certain subsidiary operating support and the annual non-programmatic capital expense authorization, are attached to the materials for your review. Earlier this morning, the ESD Audit and Budget Committee members reviewed the budget and recommended for further approval by the full ESD board. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Kathleen. I'd like to remind everyone to please state your names before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
I move.
Michael.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Doug Carr will now present an item relating to the FY 2022-2023 budgets relating to Moynihan Station Civic and Land Use Improvement Project. Doug, please go ahead.
Good morning, Hope. This is Douglas Carr with Moynihan Station Development Corporation. And this morning I'm presenting the Moynihan Station Civic and Land Use Improvement Projects budget proposals for both operating and capital budgets in support of the Moynihan Train Hall development. Authorization is being requested for an operating budget this year of $814,000 for Moynihan project operations and capital approval for Moynihan capital operating costs of $32.5 million. This reflects the overall reduction for both operating and capital budgets, reflecting the status of the project as the project achieves final completion. Capital reduction reflects final contractor payments and closeout of development and construction agreements, which will occur in the 22-23 fiscal year. Further, the operating budget reflects a transfer from construction to the ongoing role that MSDC and Empire State Development will have as part of the James A. Farley Condominium, which is the governing entity of the completed train hall, as well as operating costs associated with remaining ESD assets and obligations associated with New York State's role as owner of the Shrine Hall facility. With that, requesting authorization for the operating budget and capital budget, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Douglas. I'd like to remind everyone to please state your name before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Benson.
Second.
Hilda.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Continuing with our agenda, we will now move to the report section of this meeting, and I will start things off with the president's report. So these have been very busy times at ESD. With budget negotiations underway at the Capitol, the team here is working hard and taking necessary steps to hit the ground running once the budget is in place. That includes establishing the new Office of Workforce and Economic Development, which will be housed at ESD. This new office will oversee and coordinate the state's workforce development efforts by leveraging ESD's relationships with businesses against state assets like the Department of Labor, SUNY and CUNY schools, and regional councils. The governor's executive budget also includes retooling the broadband program to align with Governor Hochul's Connect All initiative, better supporting and growing the state's network of small businesses, and investing in our MWBE program to help us speed up the certification process and address the backlog. ESD's involvement in so many key facets of Governor Hochul's bold economic agenda are a testament to the work of everyone at the agency and the trust placed in us to generate support and advance economic development throughout New York State. Now to share some of our recent announcements on projects from around the state. Last week, Governor Hochul made a pair of ESD announcements in Western New York. She announced the creation of 500 new jobs at WUG headquarters in East Aurora. WUG designs and manufactures aerospace industry systems and components and is one of the area's biggest employers. The governor also announced that AML, RightSource, the world's largest technology-enabled crime-fighting firm, is expanding in Buffalo and adding more than 350 jobs. Once completed, the company will have nearly 550 employees in the Queen City. Governor Hochul also announced La Famille, a family-owned French yogurt and desserts company, will establish its U.S. production operations in Genesee County. The company is building 45,000 square feet facility and plans to create 135 jobs in the region. Most importantly, this will be utilizing the state's dairy industry, utilizing millions of pounds of milk from New York dairy farmers to create its globally renowned products. In the Capital Region, I was honored to join Governor Hochul in Albany County for the groundbreaking of Plug Power's new facility. The hydrogen energy manufacturer is building a 350,000 square foot plant and adding more than 1,600 new jobs. The announcement complements the efforts by the state and the administration to focus on and invest in clean, renewable, sustainable energy technologies. Here in New York City, I joined the governor at the Lincoln Center to announce that the renovation of David Geffen Hall would be completed this October. The hall is being reimagined from the inside out with 21,000 square feet of renovated and expanded public space in and around the hall. Lincoln Center is creating 114 new jobs and plans to establish a diversity and arts job training program that will provide paid internships to support community-based programming. Needless to say, this has been an especially busy time for the ESD staff, and there's more work ahead once the budget is approved. I've been so impressed with the talent and dedication of this team, and I look forward to hitting the ground running on new initiatives after the budget passes. This concludes my president's report. Thank you. We will now move to the project section of today's agenda. Regional directors and program staff are on the line with us today to present their items and to answer any related questions. Steve Golick would start things off with an item from our Western New York region. Steve, when you're ready.
Thank you. Today, the directors are requested to approve a $1 million grant from the Regional Council CFA Round 7 to the SUNY Research Foundation on behalf of the State University of New York at Buffalo. The funding is being provided to expand the overall computing capacity and upgrade computing at its Center of Computational Research, kind of known as the CCR. The CCR was established in 1998, is located in the New York State Center of Excellence in Bioinformatics and Life Sciences on the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus in Buffalo. The computing equipment is available for use by faculty and students at UB, as well as for the faculty when they're commercializing, some of their inventions. But it's also available to private companies in a diverse range of fields, including advanced manufacturing, finance, medical imaging, precision medicine, bioinformatics, drug discovery, to name a few. Really, what it is, it's a supercomputing center. It's kind of broken down, with just racks and racks of computers, kind of what you'd envision it to be. It's really broken down into two sections. One is the academic side. The other is more of the commercial/private side. Obviously, they have shared resources, shared utilities, shared, storage capacity and everything. And the money that the state is providing through the CFA is allowing UB to upgrade the commercial side, which is used by companies, but also when it's not in use, it's used on the academic side as well. The project is consistent with the Western New York REDC's plan to foster innovation and economic growth. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
I don't have a question, Madam President. I failed to indicate at the beginning that there could be a conflict with me. I serve on the board of the State University of New York, and this is a grant that would benefit the University at Buffalo.
Noted. Thank you. I'd like to remind everyone to please state your name before speaking. Again, are there any questions or comments for the director with regard to item 2A as presented by Steve Golick? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Benson.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Vinny Esposito will now present two items from our Finger Lakes region. Once Vinny provides both presentations, we will take separate votes on each item. Vinny, please start things off with the Precision Optical Receivers Capital Project.
Good morning, Hope. This is Vinny Esposito, Finger Lakes Regional Director. The directors are asked to approve a $750,000 capital grant for precision optical transceivers from the Upstate Revitalization Initiative. This grant supports the cost and construction and renovation of a 43,000 square foot facility in Henrietta to be their primary engineering and production space. This project was a move from their location in Eastman Business Park that allowed them to remain in the Rochester area. The move was completed in February 2022. Is a $6,950,000 total project that will retain the 62 current employees and add 59 new employees. The first milestone has been reached, which was an expenditure of about half of the project cost, as well as an increase of 12 employees to date. This project is funded from the URI as part of the Photonics Attraction Fund, which is a fund dedicated with our AIM Photonics partners to help grow and attract companies that manufacture integrated photonics. Happy to take questions after I present the second one, where the directors are asked to approve a $500,000 capital grant for Founders Software Incorporated from the Regional Council Capital Fund, Round 11. This grant supports the portion of the cost for acquisition, construction, and renovation of the Beaver Hollow Training and Conference Center in Wyoming County. Founders will expand the site to become a regional hub for their last mile delivery services, logistics, and software development, as well as continue operating the facility as a conference center. The total project cost is $5 million. This will enable Founders to retain the 282 employees they currently have in Western New York, including Erie County, and employ 44 new full-time employees as part of the project. Again, the first milestone has been achieved with regards to investment into the facility, and therefore the first distribution is requested. The total project will be completed in December 2023. Happy to take questions on either project.
I'd like to remind everyone, please take your name before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 2B, the Precision Optical Receivers Capital Project as presented by Vinnie Esposito? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
Move. Hilda.
Second, Michael Rosen.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 2C, the Beaver Hollow Rural Tech Campus Capital Project, also presented by Vinnie Esposito? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
Yeah, go ahead.
Move. Hilda.
Hi, everybody. We'd just like to remind you to please mute your lines unless you're speaking. We're getting some errant background noise. Thank you so much.
Second, Benson.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Jim Sale will now present an item from our Central New York region. Jim, when you're ready, please begin.
Thank you. Good morning, Hope, and the rest of the directors. The directors are being asked to approve a $4,945,140 grant to Byrne Dairy Holdings. Byrne Dairy is a large manufacturing facility. They have privately owned and they operate 3 manufacturing facilities and 2 warehouses throughout the state of New York. And this funding is going to assist in a $119 million project to cover costs of the construction and purchase of machinery and equipment. They will hire an additional 289 people and retain their current workforce of 433. Glad to take any questions.
I'd like to remind everyone to state your name before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 2D as presented by Jim Sale? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Benson.
Second, Michael.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Thomas Scaglione will now present an item from our Mid-Hudson region. Tom, when you're ready.
Thank you, Hope. Good morning, directors. This is Tom Scaglione, Regional Director for the Mid-Hudson region. The directors are being asked to approve a $400,000 Regional Council capital grant from Round 7 to Columbia University to purchase a custom-designed piece of equipment to build a heavy ion generator for research to treat cancer at their Research Accelerator facility in Irvington, New York, Westchester County. The university has invested $2,667,316 on machinery and equipment, installation, and testing costs. The project is complete and meets the criteria for disbursement of grant funds. Columbia University's Radiological Research Accelerator Facility, or RARAF, was founded in 1967 on Long Island and moved to Nevis Labs in Irvington in 1980. Recently, RARF has been focusing on preclinical trials of heavy ion and high dose irradiation. The project focuses on expanding RARF's capabilities to study radiotherapy technologies. To generate the necessary heavy ion beams that can be used to study the mechanisms leading to improved cancer treatments, RARF had to upgrade their accelerator facility. Columbia had to purchase new equipment and make infrastructure upgrades and move the existing system to allow for a new LINAC booster or a linear accelerator. Columbia expects more researchers from the radiotherapy community to come and perform experiments using the upgraded heavy ion beams. The project will retain the existing 20 employees and create 7 net new jobs. The project aligns strongly with the Mid-Hudson REDC strategic plan by investing in workforce development in the life sciences, one of the priority industries in the region. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'd like to remind everyone
Just
to
a
please
note-
state your name before speaking.
Just to note that I'm recused on this one.
Thank you. The record is noted. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to 2E as presented by Tom Scaglione? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Benson.
Seconded, Cesar Perez.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Barry Greenspan will now present an item from our Long Island region. Barry, you can begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, Hope. Good morning, directors. Again, this is Barry Greenspan from the Long Island Regional Office. The directors are asked this morning to approve a $500,000 grant for Stony Brook University Smart Manufacturing Project. This is a completed Round 8 priority project which supports advanced manufacturing in our region. Stony Brook has completed over $3 million investment supported by our $500,000 grant. The investment includes 3D printers, prototype equipment, X-ray tomography equipment, and virtual reality equipment and software upgrades. All this equipment in the manufacturing suite is focused on helping small manufacturers to test, validate, and develop new products and new materials for their businesses. The $3 million in equipment is located both at Stony Brook University's Technology Accelerator, called CWIT, as well as the engineering prototyping labs on the university campus. The investment also supports Stony Brook University's Technology Development Organization, one of 10 NYSTAR development organizations located throughout the state. The TDO works with these small manufacturers and offers technology linkages to the university's professors, graduate students, and other resources. This is a great resource for small Long Island companies that could otherwise not afford this type of advanced equipment. It should be noted that Stony Brook University president at the time, Sam Stanley, recused himself as a regional council member with all discussions regarding this project. The $3 million investment is complete, and the board is being asked this morning to approve the disbursement of the $500,000 grant. Happy to take any questions.
I'd like to remind everyone to please state your name before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 2F as presented by Barry Greenspan?
Yes, this is Cesar Perez. As I've indicated, I serve as vice chair of the Board of Trustees of the State University of New York. This is a grant that goes to Stony Brook University, which is a part of the State University of New York. And so I'd like the record to show that I'm recusing myself.
So noted. The record will show that you have recused yourself. As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
Move, Hilda.
Second, Benson.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. We next have the Restore New York Communities capital grant items, which will be presented by Simone Bethune. Simone, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Hope. Good morning. My name is Simone Bethune, presenting to Restore New York items. The first item we're seeking director's approval for is round 4 Restore New York grant in the amount of $485,000 to the Village of Waterloo in the Finger Lakes region. The project involves the demolition of 3 vacant adjacent buildings totaling 11,060 square feet and was completed in December 2021 at a cost of approximately $1.5 million. The funding was included in the 2016-2017 New York State budget, and ESD sent the Village of Waterloo an award letter on February 14, 2017. Downtown Waterloo had been struggling with rising vacancy levels and the deterioration of historic buildings. This project will fully renovate and restore the Grange building, downtown's oldest structure, the Market building, and the Dempsey Building located between 33 through 37 Virginia Street. Thanks to ESD's funding, Waterloo was able to renovate these 3 buildings with a total of 6 new commercial spaces created and 2 new market rate residential units. Because the village has satisfied its obligations under the approved application, ESD is recommending the board authorize the release of funds for this project. The second item we will be seeking director's approval for is a Round 5 Restore New York grant in the amount of $700,000 to the Village of Colony in the Capital District. The project was initiated in October 2020 and completed in September 2021 at a cost of approximately $10.6 million. Colony oversaw the demolition of a vacant 37,510 square foot building, including asbestos abatement and environmental remediation of a former brownfield site at 1653 Central Avenue. The building had fallen into complete disrepair and was experiencing frequent vandalism. The project evolved from an original plan to demolish the same building and construct a 21,000 square foot mixed-use facility. However, the village determined it to be no longer economically feasible and worked with the building owners to identify alternate redevelopment uses that would meet the expressed community goals of establishing useful amenities to improve and enhance the business environment. To this end, the village demolished the original building and constructed an approximately 100,000 square foot, 3-story commercial storage facility to better accommodate the village's needs. The project is considered a demolition and rehabilitation award under Restore New York guidelines, as it involved demolition and asbestos abatement, including environmental remediation of a brownfield site. The physical transformation of the property, which is on a busy commercial corridor, and the establishment of a tax-paying commercial business at the site has dramatically improved the parcel's appearance, while also addressing residential and commercial needs in a rapidly growing community. Because the village has satisfied its obligations under the approved application, ESD is recommending that the board authorize the release of funds for this project. And I can take any questions.
I'd like to remind everyone to state your name before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 2G as presented by Simone Mthunu? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Michael.
Second, Hilda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Maria Mitchell will now present an item related to the Life Sciences Initiative Fund for our consideration. Maria, please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Hope. Yes, good morning, everyone. This is Maria Mitchell. We are seeking the director's approval for 2 New York First grants of up to $1 million each for the University of Rochester and the SUNY Research Foundation on behalf of SUNY Upstate Medical University. As some of you may remember, New York First started in 2018 and is designed to encourage recruitment of exceptional life science researchers from outside of the state or retention of researchers in state who are focused on translational research. Such research often leads to new patents, startup companies, and products with commercial potential, helping to expand the life science ecosystem in New York. New York First grants are for capital and working capital expenditures supporting the researchers' lab. Upstate Medical University is using New York First funds to support the retention of Dr. Wanto Liu, who had offers from several other universities, including Wayne State University and Loyola Medical Center in Chicago. Since the start of the grant, Dr. Liu has filed 2 patent applications and registered a startup company to commercialize his nanotrep technology for sepsis treatment and has registered another 2 startup companies. This award has enabled the retention of 5 current jobs in Dr. Liu's lab and 3 additional staff, along with the retention of NIH grants totaling $1.83 million. The total cost of the project is $4.5 million, and SUNY Upstate is contributing $3.5 million. The University of Rochester is using New York First funds to support the recruitment of Dr. Steven Silverstein from Rutgers University. His research focuses on the development of visual biomarkers for neuropsychiatric disorders. Dr. Silverstein is leading efforts to connect with private industry to leverage the university's extensive work in this area. 2 recruits from Rutgers joined Dr. Silverstein, and 9 additional staff have been hired and more than $6.5 million in NIH and foundation grants have been raised to support his work. The total cost of the project is $3.5 million, of which the University of Rochester is contributing $2.5 million. I'd just like to note that the Associated Medical Schools of New York have let us know that the first two rounds of the New York First Awards have led to the creation of 160 jobs and attracted approximately $24.8 million in funding, a return on investment in excess of 4 to 1. And thank you very much, and I'd be happy to answer your questions.
I'd like to remind everyone to please state your name before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 3A as presented by Maria Mitchell?
Again, this is Cesar Morales of the State University of New York. This involves the Upstate Medical University of SUNY, and it will benefit from this grant, and so I am recusing myself on this issue.
So noted for the record. Thank you. As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Benson.
Second, Hilda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. And next, we have a New York Ventures investment item, which will be presented by Clayton Besh. Clayton, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, President Knight. New York Ventures would like to ask the board for authorization for the board to make an investment of up to $1 million in Innovation Rocket Technologies, or iRocket, in their $7.5 million SAFE investment round, with the balance provided by Global Village Ventures and other experienced investors. iRocket is a new Hyde Park, New York startup that is building an autonomous, reusable rockets and rocket engines using green hydrogen for fuel to launch small satellites and payloads from 300 to 1,500 kilograms into low Earth orbit, with a planned 24-hour turnaround scheduled from a wide variety of launch sites. This cost-effective launch vehicle can support payloads for satellite providers, for national security satellites, 5G internet constellations, biotech research, and space exploration. The company's vehicle, which is expected to reach commercialization by 2024, will not only launch satellites, but could also be used to clear space junk and carry astronauts. Another target application is to use the rocket platform to deliver cargo anywhere in the world in under 1 hour, supporting logistic carriers, national security challenges, and humanitarian missions. The use of this round's capital is to scale the engine design and hire key team members in preparation for the next round of funding and commercial manufacturing of the rockets and rocket engines. The New York Ventures staff and the Investment Review Committee agree that the market opportunity and the growth potential offered by this New York State company warrants an investment by the fund and recommend its approval. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions or comments from the directors? As noted, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval of item 4A as presented by Clayton Besh.
Moved, Michael.
Second, Hilda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Now I'd like to turn things over to Doug Janice, who will provide a brief summary of the administrative items on today's agenda before I call for a vote on all 10 of those items. Doug, please go ahead.
Thank you, Hope, and good morning, directors. This is Doug Janice. I'm a senior counsel in the Buffalo office. As a reminder, in order to help streamline our board meetings, we previously implemented an oral summary presentation process in connection with the administrative action section of the agenda. You received a full set of the written descriptive materials for each of these items in your board materials, as you have for this meeting, but rather than having individual oral presentations made on each, I will provide a brief summary of the items. At the conclusion of the summary, we will then entertain any questions or comments the directors may have. As noted earlier, we did not receive any comments or questions from the public on any of these items. Following my presentation and any questions, the acting chair will then call for a motion to approve the entire slate of administrative actions, which are items 5A through 5J. The administrative action items submitted for your consideration today and for which you have received the written materials are summarized as follows. The first item is item 5A. It's relative to the property disposition guidelines. The board is being asked to adopt the property disposition guidelines for the coming year. The Public Authorities Accountability Act requires the annual adoption of guidelines with respect to property disposition. Since 2006, the corporation has annually adopted and implemented guidelines which effectively incorporate all of the requirements of the Act. The attached 2022 guidelines, which are patterned after the model guidelines and have not changed since last year, are being proposed for readoption by the corporation. The next item for consideration is item 5B, relative to the adoption of the annual procurement guidelines. The board is being asked to adopt revised guidelines for the use, awarding, monitoring, and reporting of procurement contracts for the coming year. Section 2879 of the Public Authorities Law requires the annual adoption of these guidelines, and the corporation has annually adopted, updated, and revised guidelines to conform with the law. While the 2022 guidelines are substantially similar to the adopted 2021 guidelines, staff is recommending some small changes to clarify and better organize the guidelines to make them more user-friendly, logical, and coherent, while ensuring that ESD continues to obtain goods and services in an open, accountable, and transparent manner. The changes are set forth in your written materials, but the highlights are to change the adoption date of the guidelines to coincide with the start of the corporation's fiscal year, clarifying that additional information is available for small purchases under $50,000 from the procurement coordinator, reworking sections 3 and 4 to eliminate the flow charts and replace them with listed bullet points that are easier to follow, permitting staff to competitively procure additional vendors for pre-qualified lists if the need arises, clarifying the circumstances that can justify granting a single source contract reporter exemption request, clarifying that a notice to proceed can be utilized both before and after board approval prior to the full execution of the contract. And in an effort to be more environmentally conscious, new procedures are being added to permit electronic submissions of bids and proposals. The attached 2022 guidelines, which incorporate these changes, are being proposed for adoption by the corporation. The next item is item 5C, relative to the adoption of a new pre-qualified legal counsel list. The board is being asked to approve the list of pre-qualified legal counsel to replace an expiring list. Empire State Development implements and facilitates a number of large and complex economic development projects, programs, and initiatives. The size, nature, and complexity of these projects often requires the corporation to seek assistance from outside counsel in a wide variety of areas of expertise. The current list of pre-qualified legal counsel will expire on March 31st, and staff has conducted a broad competitive solicitation of interested law firms in order to compile and adopt a new list, which is now recommended for adoption for a period of 3 years, subject to an extension of 1 additional year at the discretion of the general counsel. Staff requested proposals from law firms in 12 distinct areas of the law and conducted a significant outreach initiative to ensure that as many qualified firms as possible would respond. 74 firms responded to the solicitation, and they were evaluated by a review committee consisting of 9 ESD staff attorneys. Based on that review, staff is recommending the approval of the firms listed on the attachment as pre-qualified legal counsel for the corporation. As a result of staff's outreach and engagement efforts, 29 of these firms are MWBE or SDVOB firms, representing 39% of the list. Please note the directors are not being asked to authorize the retention of any particular firm, but rather to make available a panel of qualified law firms to permit staff to make a recommendation as to the best law firm for each project or issue as it arises. The attached list of pre-qualified law firms is being proposed for approval by the corporation. The next administrative item is item 5D, relative to the renewal of corporate insurance policies. ESD is requesting board approval to renew our insurance premiums for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. Our overall annual insurance premium is estimated not to exceed $1,172,690, and is $202,475, or 21% higher than last year's total premium of $972,214. Overall, this is the line with previous increases, with fiscal year 2021-2022 premiums increasing 23% from fiscal year 2020-2021. In general, increased premiums are attributable to a current hard market within this insurance landscape, increases in frequency and severity of losses, diminished underwriting appetite and capacity, and less competition amongst the insurance carriers for new business. Item 5E is relative to cloud-based software solutions for New York State certification and business development. The Division of Minority and Women's Business Development is seeking a cloud-based cutting-edge solution for a complex, flexible, and modular software and related web application for the division to help manage and run its business activities, including with respect to certification, agency services, business development, compliance, as well as education and outreach and customer service. The division believes that the current platform, which was developed over a decade ago, no longer meets the division's growing activities and needs, particularly as the MWBE program has grown in scale and complexity over time. By adopting new technologies that incorporate, for example, data and predictive analytics, a more user-friendly interface, artificial intelligence, and other tools to enhance certification, compliance, and other activities, the division anticipates that it will better be able to serve the needs of the MWBE program, including by streamlining the certification process, facilitating compliance, automating decision-making, and providing more economic opportunities. Next item is item 5F, relative to the contract renewal for Dun & Bradstreet, Inc. This is a request for authorization to renew an existing contract with Dun & Bradstreet for its Market Insight database. The proposed term of the contract is 1 year, and the funding source is corporate funds. The total contract amount is $565,230, with the cost and access shared by ESD and the New York State Department of Labor. ESD is responsible for $197,910, and the Department of Labor is responsible for $367,319. ESD and the Department of Labor have used this Market Insight platform for several years due to its unique and comprehensive database of worldwide information on corporate relationships, business operations, and business contact information. Our next item is item 5G, relative to diversity compliance for large-scale construction projects. This is a request for authorization to amend ESD's 2022 agreement with the Metropolitan Transportation Authority Construction and Development Company to extend the times and services of an experienced diversity compliance manager, Tracy Mitchell, to assist ESD in meeting its diversity goals on its large construction projects. The amendment is for 2 years, from August 13th, 2022 through August 13th, 2024. I would note the initial agreement was in 2019 with a prior amendment and an option to renew in 2020. Price for this extension has been determined by calculating the percentage of salary that is equivalent to labor costs, plus salary, including salary, fringe benefits, and time spent on ESD projects. About $8,400 per month will be owed to the MTA C&D for this extension. Our next item is item 5H, relative to the office lease renewal for the New York State Office of Trade and Tourism for office space in Old San Juan, Puerto Rico. This is a request to enter into a 1-year lease renewal contract for office space in Old San Juan, Puerto Rico for the New York State Office of Trade and Tourism. The current 2-year lease is expiring on April 19th, 2022. Other than the length of the lease renewal, the rent, additional rent, and operating expenses will remain the same, with a total contract value of approximately $72,000 for the lease renewal. Our next item is item 5I, relative to the procurement of legal services in connection with the New York State Office of Trade and Tourism for office space in Old San Juan, Puerto Rico, and related matters. This is a request to amend the contract with Goldman, Antonetti, and Cordova, LLC for legal services in connection with the New York State Office of Trade and Tourism office in Puerto Rico. Current contract of $28,750, which was for 1 year, expires on April 1st, 2022. And this amendment will extend the contract for 2 years through March 31st, 2024, and increase the contract value by approximately $7,000 over that. Our final administrative item is item 5J, which is relative to a contract for marketing and promotional services for the New York State dairy industry through Cornell University on behalf of New York Agriculture in the Classroom. We're requesting board approval for a $650,000 contract with Cornell University and New York State Agriculture in the Classroom for our market order program. As you may recall, they plan to focus on increasing the consumption of milk and dairy products by youth by increasing the amount of classroom instruction focused on the dairy industry. This contract was previously approved at the November 2021 board meeting with New York Agriculture in the Classroom listed as the vendor. The scope of work and funding amount will remain the same, but we were requested to clarify that Cornell University will be the contractor and will disperse the funds through the New York in the Agriculture in the Classroom program, which is housed and operated by Cornell University. I will now turn it back over to our acting chair, who will call for any questions or comments you may have on any of these items before calling for a vote. We also have item-related staff on the line today as well to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to these items. Are there any questions or comments from the directors on any of these items? If not, may I have a motion for approval of the items 5A through 5J as submitted on the written materials provided to directors and summarized orally today?
So moved.
Seconded.
Second. Hilda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. There being no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Move.
I so move.
Thank you, everyone, for your participation in this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.